Second level shadow work, maintaining a healthy amount of shadow to generate power, is not for everyone. But the people who it's not for should be slower to judge those who need this kind of shadow work, of actually developing their darkness so that they can better work with light. Many traumatized people simply cannot heal unless they go step by step, which means keeping and taking a little pain and suffering with them in each step of their process. Often, they also need to generate personal power in order to heal themselves. And this personal power is generated through the pain and darkness that they have left. So if we take all of someone's pain and darkness away in a simple, short healing session, clearing all of their karma, healing all of their timelines and ancestral lineages in all time, spaces and dimensions and so on and so forth. Although it sounds like great value for money and all problems, well, their problems, are potentially solved in an hour, we are often taking away or lessening their ability to generate power, the power to heal themselves. And we really have to question that if someone is not at least involved in their own healing process and exerting their own will and energy into it, are they really healing? It's why the 100% love, light, and positivity movement is not accepted by everyone. There is a reason that the majority of the population do not live celibate in monasteries. We all see life differently, so instead of deciding if something is right or wrong for us, we will be better to understand why other people need something that we don't need and thus don't really understand. We attract both what we need and what we already are, and very often what we reject or suppress. Thus, by surrendering to our internal process, be it dark or light, and commit to working on ourselves, we will attract more of what we need, be it dark or light. And hate it or not, sometimes we need dark, and occasionally we need suffering. I'm very happy to say that I'm in a point in my life where most of my darkness heals and brings me joy, but it was not always like this. And sometimes I'm still confronted with the unhealed dark and shadower parts of my human nature. Sometimes I still suffer, but applying a non-dual mind to this suffering changes the experience of suffering entirely. Put very simply, the more we can trust our hearts and our sexuality to attract what we need, as in the holistic us, trust the information that vibrates in our cells, the information stored within our bodies, our physical hearts, and our sexual organs, then the quicker we will attract what we need to heal, even when dark or painful. The process of Kundalini bodywork is changing our physical vibration through the use of universal law and the taught bodywork practices and techniques so that we can trust that we attract what we deserve, and we trust when our focus is on the common good, with commitment to our own evolution, we will never or very rarely attract anything that will not make us stronger. Surrender can make us stronger. When we learn surrender transforms us. Although for me, this often means fighting and resisting something in order to realize what it is I actually need to surrender to. And that's totally okay. When surrendering to what is both the question and the answer at the same time, the problem and the solution at the same time, can be difficult for our minds. Terms like my higher self, the will of God, the cosmos, the interconnected pattern that I am and that I am transforming can often help when it comes to surrender. We can also surrender to what's in our heart, what's in our sex, and even the will of someone else, but if we choose to. But surrender in this way is normally always best momentarily and temporarily. When we willingly choose to surrender to pain and enter darkness, This is second level shadow work. And we do this to become more than we are, stronger than we are, to grow more than the trauma that we inherited or were subjected to could help us grow. If our mind does not trust our heart or our sex, and it is always judging between what is right and wrong, we are very unlikely to heal. Alignment occurs through the conversation between the three dimensions, between our heart, mind, and sex. Shadow work is often this conversation. So our alignment, our untwisting comes through our shadow work, comes through welcoming our darkness and negativity and turning our darkness into positivity. Positivity that gives rise to more darkness. Darkness that is hopefully on a higher level of abstraction, so doing less harm and more healing. It is the endless human paradox that we evolve from, through, and into. We have to remember that there are many different people in the world, and although this second form of shadow work might not be for everyone, for some people, at certain points of their life, it is essential. As always, the answer is paradoxical, and always both of these metaphoric perspectives are valid. Turning darkness into light and maintaining our shadow for balance and growth. The second perspective is far more triggering and problematic, especially when our role is to do harm to others so that they can learn and grow. Sounds like a very crazy thought that most cannot accept. Thus, most people do harm from an unconscious and subconscious state. And for as long as we need others to do us harm in order to learn our lessons in life, we will require an amount of humanity to be unconscious, thus bad. The empath and the narcissist romance dynamic depicts this very well, with the empath subconscious often desiring someone to hurt them, as their conscious mind fights for a world of love with no suffering or darkness. Thus, in line with the laws of polarity, their subconscious mind attracts a narcissist to balance them out. When our desires become conscious and we take responsibility for our subconscious manipulations, thus making them conscious, making the subconscious conscious, or at least the veil between the two thin, then our outcomes become very different. For some people, their darkness mainly expresses through sexual desires, where in the empath's case, being hurt through love seems to make sense. And in the grander scheme of things, figuring out your shadow through your sexuality with someone you love can be one of the most safest places, no matter which side of a fence you sit. Second level shadow work, maintaining and developing shadow to draw power from, is very related to third level shadow work, developing purity of heart, and our approach to practicing in the second and third level may be the same, but it's important to distinguish the difference, although we will be doing both of them at the same time. Often we will be doing both of them at the same time. In third level shadow work, we are much more conscious of transcending and transforming and healing our darkness to strengthen our ability for love and compassion. In a sense, we are becoming master alchemists, if this word works for you. To draw power from our shadow, we often need to emphasize our shadow, and this obviously comes with risk. Kundalini bodywork and this form of non-dual psychology and shadow work that we use to support people in their transformation is less about giving you a practice to follow and more about exploring the concepts that allow your conscious and subconscious minds and your imagination to figure life out, happiness out, and evolution out at a deeper level. The polarity framework is one useful tool in shadow work, but we definitely need more. Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent can also be helpful, as can Ken Wilber's integral model if you have an academic mind. But what is vitally essential in our personal shadow work is our own creativity. The creative process in shadow work often creates crazy sounding ideas and fantasies, at least mine does. So it's often better to keep certain aspects of our shadow private and undefined as unfinished ideas or desires in the mind more than a concrete act that we can undertake. This allows the paradoxes that we are made from to keep evolving, allowing us to generate power from an excitement that we benefit the most from by not really understanding it in finer detail. Paradoxically, many things that turn us on or that we fantasize about are things that we would never want to happen in reality. When we can draw power from fantasy, power from an illusion, then our shadow work is great and we can come a step closer to truly living from the experience of our waking reality, also being an illusion of our creation. But this takes time and a lot of practice. I'm still practicing. Most of us already have enough shadow to transform, so we do not need to create more. But an understanding of our shadow and that of others greatly benefits us in using the laws of polarity and duality. When something can kill us or put us in great danger, we develop some form of respect for it because we value our life. We also gain knowledge and understanding about its risks as well as its benefits. Shadow work is much the same. The more we dare to understand our shadow, the more knowledge and benefits we gain. When we choose to go into darker places with awareness, it serves our growth. But often the natural human desire to explore our shadow sends us into these places without awareness and consciousness. As a consequence, we risk losing a part of ourselves, being seduced by a darker influence, reducing our free will and forgetting why we chose to explore certain sides of ourselves with the company and the people we now find ourselves with. Thus, shadow work without authenticity and integrity is dangerous, and it can diminish our free will, and second level shadow work should always be approached with caution. But personally, I wish you fun.